All right. Welcome in, everybody. A somber KSO post game live. I'm also just trying to be quiet, not wake my daughter up. I got in trouble the last time there was a road game, and we did this from home, and kind of woke her up, and she was awake until 12:30. That was the Arizona State game. But feels like this is the right tone to kind of hit tonight because K-State just from the jump didn't have it. Felt like they kind of weathered the first storm as well as they could. And then unfortunately, just too much in the long run of bad play by K-State and BYU doing a lot of other things well. And the most disappointing part of all this is going to come down to the fact that when you look at the final numbers, BYU had a poor shooting night from three. They hit some critical ones at times that you felt like, oh, that's big. That's what BYU is going to do to you. But K-State was better from three tonight than BYU. I mean, percentage wise, K-State was 6 of 21. That was roughly 29%. BYU ends up 26% from three on the evening. The real difference ends up being at the free throw line. BYU gets to go there 9 more times than K-State. They were also just better at knocking down. And then the rebounding was a major problem in this game. So, I mean, those are the things right off the bat. And as KSU fan kept pointing out to us, K-State was so bad from two in this game, which was something they were really good at against Arizona to overcome poor shooting elsewhere. Just too many flaws for K-State in the loss tonight, and that's why they lose 80-65 on the road in Provo. So, Drew, before we get into the actual impact of this game and everything that comes with it, what did you make of the game itself and what you saw from K-State tonight?
Honestly, this game, you could argue, was more frustrating than the games at the beginning of the season because you knew that K-State was playing better and better than they showed tonight. But I mean, I said it at the end of the game. Doesn't really matter in the long run, but Hall misses the front end of a 1-and-1, and I go back and watch the replay, and I see 4 guys for K-State just watching the ball, and Richie Saunders goes and gets it. The rebounding effort was terrible, to be honest. Coleman Hawkins was awful. David Gasson wasn't much better. You're not going to win a lot of games on the road when 2 of your 3 best players were as bad as they were tonight. David Gasson was bad. Coleman Hawkins was bad. You could make an argument that at any given point on the floor, the 4 worst players were all on K-State tonight. And I think that is the bad thing about how this game went, because you knew that they were going to have an off night eventually and the streak was going to come to an end. But to see it come to an end, I think, is more discouraging for how they really played, because at no point was this game really competitive. And
Yeah,
I think that's the sad part about it.
yeah. I mean, the result, honestly, to only lose this game by 15, there was a point there where I was thinking BYU's obviously engaged. It just doesn't seem like K-State has it tonight. They might lose this thing by 30, and then people are talking about just how's that going to tank your metrics the other way? That you really need that to bolster you. Like K-State obviously needs the wins and the overall record to look good, but they also need to take steps forward in how they look in metrics like the net that the NCAA selection committee will look at if K-State ends up being one of those bubble teams come selection Sunday. And I think we have to start individually talking about Coleman Hawkins after tonight, because he had been so good during a majority of this stretch that K-State had played, but then really struggled against Arizona, and then tonight found really just a whole new level beyond that. He wasn't great offensively against Arizona. The shots didn't even look close. That was a concern. Tonight, it was even worse than that, though. He was bad on basically in everything you need somebody to do on the basketball court. And then he also just the confidence looks shot right now. Like whatever took place in that Arizona game really threw him off, and he was passing up shots that you look at and you say, you got to take those. I mean, we talked so much about this last year where K-State wasn't capable of taking certain shots that you had to take to make your offense flow to give yourself a chance. And this team's been better about it. They've had the ability, they've had the confidence to do it. Coleman Hawkins, and he'll pass up more shots than he should, but it was a whole new level tonight. And then when he had his opportunities on offense, he wasn't really effective with it. He was one of the significant reasons why K-State didn't have a chance in this game. He didn't have it tonight. David Gasson, that on that front, you can look at it and say he obviously didn't have a great game. That's going to happen. It's unfortunate it happened tonight. He'd been so good over this stretch, especially the last 3 games in particular, where, in 23 minutes, he was great against Arizona. Then he fouled out, and some of those fouls were a little BS. And then, obviously, he won Big 12 Player of the Week for what he did against Arizona State and KU. So that's tough to kind of stomach. Max Jones didn't really give you much on offense tonight. He couldn't get looks. Really, the team in general couldn't get great looks. There weren't many shots in the first half that I looked at and said, oh, that's one that I think could go in the hole. Not many times that happened. But Coleman Hawkins' play is the most significant because the other guys I think will bounce back. Max Jones will be fine. David Gasson will be fine. They just had off nights. Unfortunately, they happened together. The Coleman Hawkins thing, back-to-back games, worries me that it could be prolonged, and that's going to be something a little bit harder for him to get over.
No, it's definitely concerning, and it's to the point where, for as bad as he was offensively tonight, because this is a matchup that he should be able to exploit. Richie Saunders is 4 inches shorter than he is, and just isn't a great defender really to begin with. And he just wasn't able to take advantage. And you could tell from the jump that it was going to be a long night for Coleman Hawkins, because I think that he took 4 shots before the under 16 timeout and was 0 of 4. And then after that, it just continually got worse. And then even worse for K-State was, as bad as he was offensively tonight, he might have been worse defensively. Like the effort level wasn't there. When he was playing hard, he was still getting blown by. Like everything just looked stuck in the mud with him. And K-State's not going to be able to win a lot of games when Coleman Hawkins is bad. I just went and looked. Hawkins ended with 0 assists. That's the first time in a game this season that he's had 0 assists. And it was a rarity at Illinois. And it just kind of goes to show you that everything that could go wrong tonight kind of went wrong. And then you also look at this as like the bigger picture concern for me about this game, kind of in a vacuum, is BYU is not a good defensive team.
Yeah.
And K-State couldn't get anything going. I mean, I put it in the game thread. I made the joke that they turned Keba Keita into prime Hakeem Olajuwon because K-State couldn't get anything around the basket. And it was just kind of a disaster class of a basketball game. I mean, Keita ends with 5 blocks.
Yeah, he was frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and he is probably one of the worst bigs that K-State has played in this 7-game stretch. And he was the one that K-State had no answers for tonight. And it's just frustrating because, again, like you look, rebounds, K-State gets worked on the glass and gets worked by Richie Saunders, who hadn't had a game this season with more than 8 rebounds. He has 14. And we pointed this out last year a few times about just rebounding effort, and it's kind of concerning when like this guy is leading the team in rebounds. As much as I have loved what we've seen out of Moby, Ike Garuka, in 16 minutes, he shouldn't be the second leading rebounder on the team in this game. Yeah. And I think that just shows just how poorly I think a lot of the bigs were. Like Ugana Yenso was unplayable in his 3 minutes. Like he
I don't know, Drew. -1 plus minus. He had the best plus minus on the team. What do you mean he was unplayable?
Ugh, there, I mentioned it when they showed the highlight at halftime, but he couldn't have timed his jump to block that one shot worse
Yeah,
than he did.
it's not been good
It,
for Ugo there.
but then you see that, and it's like, okay, he was bad. David Gasson gets 6 rebounds, but only 1 defensive rebound, and I think that he allowed probably 5 or 6 offensive
And
rebounds. Him and
I'm
Collins.
I'm not sure how many times those offensive rebounds even led to shot attempts or points for K-State. I mean, K-State only ended with 8 second chance points tonight on 14 offensive boards. And then you look at the other side of it. 11 for BYU, but they got rebound after rebound tonight. They just K-State couldn't get out of their own way. And then the free throws were a big deal. And we can talk about that in this as well, because Jerome Tang ends up getting a technical foul that kind of spurred a K-State run to put them down 8 after they trailed by 22 at one point. And when it got down to 8, you start to think to yourself, man, maybe this team is going to do something crazy again. But it comes across as the wrong time or too late for Jerome Tang to have done this. I have this written in what we learned that'll come out at some point, but we've talked a lot over the last 3 seasons now about Jerome Tang's game management, essentially. You look at the timeout usage tonight. You were messaging back and forth with me about how odd it was that he sat on those 3 timeouts for as long as he did
He
and then
didn't
decided to
call
use them
yeah,
late in the game.
yeah, he calls all of the timeouts late in the game and not when K-State cut it to 8 and it immediately ballooned back to 16. That was maddening.
Yeah, and so that's not great. We talk about that a lot. But I also, as somebody that, thinks officials suck a lot of the time, I'm pretty and as somebody that also got teed up in numerous intramural basketball games at K-State, but also have been on the other side of it and umpired baseball for over a decade and have ejected a few coaches in my time or given warnings. Um, my view on it is that you got to get the technical foul at the right time. And he didn't get it at the right time tonight, because if you had gotten it earlier in the game, number one, you already got down big by the half. So get it in the first half and just, give them a point or two. Use it then, and maybe this thing tightens up a little bit quicker, because it clearly impacted the game. And that's something I would point to say they probably had a crappy officiating crew if it took one coach getting a technical to drastically change the way calls were being made that much. Like you'll see from time to time, there'll be that quick burst afterwards where it's like you're going to get a couple calls. There was a prolonged stretch there where the game was called entirely different for K-State than it had been earlier in the game. Now, again, officiating is not the reason why K-State lost tonight. They sucked tonight. So, but what we did see was BYU wasn't, as good as it appeared. The officiating did have some impact on that game. And then I think back to the Drake game earlier this year. I thought that was a situation where Jerome Tang got a technical foul at the wrong time in a different setting. Tonight, he didn't get it soon enough. He waited too long to get it in the Drake game. And by the time he had gotten it, K-State had already kind of started to go on a little bit of a run and make a push. And it's like, you're giving them points right now when you had settled down and figured something out. So I think he's got to improve from a game management standpoint. And this comes with finding how this thing goes, because he's only in his 3rd year ever as a head coach in college basketball. And he's doing it in the Big 12 and at K-State. Unlike some of these guys that, enter the league, they spent 5-7 years in the Summit or whatever, small time conference. Like, there's a little bit that you have to learn there as the head man. So I just wanted to point that out, because I thought that was, one of those things that he'll learn, he'll pick up on. I do appreciate the fact that, like, we all know the quality of person that Jerome Tang is. It's good to see that, because I think some people would think this, I think that it's good to see that he's, willing to go out there, get in the ear of the officials, give it to them when he thinks that they need to get it. Just probably need to break the glass in case of emergency a little sooner sometimes if you're eventually going to get to it. This is just a good analogy for a lot of what Jerome Tank's coaching can be sometimes in games. Like, don't let the fire spread before you decide to use the fire extinguisher. Like,
Yeah.
don't just sit around and go, well, the fire is only on the stove right now. Let's just see if we can get this thing under control with, we'll do whatever. We'll open this up. We'll turn this off or whatever you think. No, just get the fire extinguisher. Make sure that flame doesn't burn anywhere else right now. Don't let that thing engulf the entire kitchen and then be like, oh crap, we should probably try something. Let's call the fire department. Yeah, I just thought that was one of those little things. Again, didn't really it probably wasn't going to change the outcome of the game tonight. But
No.
when everybody else is kind of off, that was something that was off about this game as well.
No, I'm right there with you, and I don't know how much it really would have impacted it, just like you're saying, but it's a weird time to get a technical. It's a weird time to spend your 3 timeouts when the game has already been decided and there's 3 minutes left in the game. It like, it's just something is off about game management from that perspective, that it feels like it's something that just hasn't been corrected yet and needs to be corrected. Because I would even go as far as, like, it was 32-20 tonight forever.
Yeah.
At one point in that stretch when you aren't scoring and neither is BYU, it's clear and obvious, like, you're not really getting anything on offense. If you gotta stop, it is okay to call a timeout and
Yeah.
to try and get a good look out of a timeout. Now, with how K-State shot tonight, it probably doesn't matter, but it's just something that I don't wanna say bothers me, but it's just something that it's really noticeable in losses, that K-State is very willing to let teams go on a run and get that to, like, a 10-0 run before calling a timeout, instead of kind of just, like, seeing that a run could potentially be happening, because I think that everybody really kind of saw when it was 32-20 and it stayed that score for 3, 4 minutes of the game, whoever made that next basket was probably gonna go on a
Yep.
run, and when BYU hits that next basket, it's like, "Okay, a run is probably gonna come here." And to not call a timeout there, or to not call a timeout when you finally get the game to 8 and it immediately goes to 14, like, that's probably a time that you could take one instead of letting it get to 18 and then or 16, and then K-State doesn't call a timeout at all. So, that's just something that is just something that needs to be improved on. And then I'll just hit on the free throws. I've talked about it. This is probably like my 6th time talking about it this season. If you're gonna be a horrible team at getting to the free throw line, you better be able to make your free throws. K-State is, again, doing the horrible free throw rate and horrible free throw shooting team, and you're just not gonna win a lot of games that way.
Yeah.
Like, it you can't be in the bottom 50 at getting to the free throw line and in the bottom 70 at free throw shooting, and it be okay. And a lot of this stems back to what we've talked about. The guys that get to the free throw line for K-State are the bad free throw shooters.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. We've talked enough about David Gasson, best to get in line. He's the worst free throw shooter. It's not a great combo to have. Yeah,
Well, it's also not a good combo when, again, he's playing with a ton of energy and has done a lot of great things. Moby can't be the guy that leads you in free throw attempts in a game.
yeah, that's all because he's also not a great free throw shooter. So yeah, it's not a great time. All right. We'll get into some of the comments here. Some mentioning the time of the game and these trips out here. Yes, the any of these trips out west and late at night are not kind to K-State. Provo, it's really unfortunate that it seems like BYU is just going to kick K-State's ass every time they go there in whatever sport it is, because I really did enjoy our trip there during football season. It's a beautiful part of the country. The people were really great. BYU's campus and facilities were really nice. It's a place that I would like to go back to, but in a year and a half, Provo, Utah has become a house of horrors for K-State. And it's really going to sully the thoughts that I have of the people and BYU itself. Not really, good for them, I guess, getting their win and beaten down like they're supposed to. But I'm not going to want to be very friendly to BYU, despite the fact that they are the friendliest people that we've encountered so far. We'll get into some of the things about this game in the big picture, though. Bracket cat, flush it, move on. Utah is going to be a handful, giving KU everything they want right now. Can't go 0-2 on this trip. Yeah, Utah up 8 currently with 9:50 to play over KU. You have to win that one, Ryan. Same sentiment. Figured they would lose this game by 12-15. Have to win at Utah, though. And then Garrett's comment on the situation at hand. We were on the last 4 out. If we win 3 or 4 of our next games, you think we got a shot making it in the tournament? And Bracket Cat was following up there, mentions the 5-1. Yeah, that's basically the right way to put it right now. And we talked about this. The win over Arizona and the 6-game winning streak gave K-State a legitimate chance, and it gave any of the comments and us talking after games about the opportunity to be an NCAA tournament team, like, that's legit. That can be a real conversation now. Unfortunately, the margin for error was still really, really thin, and K-State continued to buy themselves a little bit more leash, but it was still pretty short. And tonight, losing this game, again, while I don't know that anybody should have gone in and expecting this, like, to count it as a win, you would have liked to have had it. It was definitely a gettable game. You didn't. And now K-State, really, to feel good about what could happen, you have to at least finish this thing 5-1 is what has to be done. And really, 6-0 is about the only way that I think you can guarantee that you get yourself into the tournament. There's just going to be so much ahead of you to get this thing done. This is a loss that stings, but it doesn't completely kill your chances. But it makes that game on Monday in Salt Lake City massive. K-State has to win and has to bring it and respond well.
Monday kills your chances if you lose, because then you have to play perfect the rest of the way. And I think that's kind of the killer. That's why, like, as much as this stretch has really been fun, I feel like I've been the Debbie Downer that has said that I don't think that they're gonna make it, because at some point you just are what your record says, and being 13-11, they just aren't consistent enough to kind of pull off a long stretch here. But I think bigger picture for this game, I've seen a couple comments, not just on here, but on the board, talking about altitude and that affecting the game. It may or may not, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. They played terrible from the jump tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame altitude if you're getting rain out of the gym with 16 minutes to go in the game. And you're calling timeouts down 20 with 3 minutes left to get it to 15.
I think it was just, not your night. And also, I think there is also some psychology to the win streak and the impact that it has here, because I also am interested in how K-State responds after the win streak is over. Like, do you just go out, this sucker ain't happening anymore, and do you kind of shut down, or are you ready to pick up and fight again like you were with something that secured this 6-game win streak that kind of spurred it on? But I do, wonder, you win 6 games in a row, you start to build up all this confidence. Like, do you take a slight step back in terms of how locked in you are in the way that you're playing, because you think that this is starting to get easy and that you can, we handled Iowa State, we beat the snot out of Kansas, we handled Arizona, we beat all these teams at the top of the league, like, BYU should be a piece of cake. So I wonder, like, how much of that plays into it. And again, it's silly at times to suggest that, but as we know, these are people that like this is their thing. They can get into it. I know that there are things that I do in my job at KSO that I get into a pretty good flow and rhythm. And if I start taking some things for granted or I start, thinking, I got that, that's easy, I'm going to slip up. I'm going to have some struggles. And I play a ton of golf. Well, I used to before I had a kid. And you get out there, you're in a good flow. You can kind of drift away from some of the things that you need to think about a little bit more to keep playing well. And you can, go a couple stretches where you're not playing your best. So I think that there's probably some elements of that in this, just combined with teams are due for bad nights. And while K-State had a bad 3-point shooting night against Arizona, they didn't have a bad night overall. They did so many other things well against Arizona. And tonight they didn't do really anything well in this game. I want to get to this last comment from Bracket Cat before I hand it off to you, Drew, because he said, hope this 2-day turnaround at altitude goes better than last time. Xavier to Butler in 2010. Yeah, too soon, Bracket Cat. Too soon. We're going on 15 years since that happened, but it's still too soon. You're going to make Jacob Pullen cry like Kellis? What are you going to do, That was a year later he did that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. All love the Cats.
I would even say that like that trip was at least fun-ish because that Xavier game was pretty fun.
Yeah, you won the first game.
But like you said, they didn't really do a single thing well tonight. It again sucks because of how this game ends, but this was another game where you got exactly what we thought we were getting from Doug McDaniel at the beginning of the season. And he was, I'm doing pluses, concerns, and surprises for this game. Doug McDaniel might be the only thing that I put in the positive column.
I think you should. He was great tonight.
Yeah,
we should talk about him more because he again kept up this phenomenal stretch that he's been on. The turnover numbers were low. He was efficient scoring the ball. We saw some shooting from outside that was good. 22 points in total. Really, the most concerning thing and disappointing part of the night was the fact that he only had 2 assists. K-State only had 6 assists as a team, and that highlights a bigger problem that they had as a team tonight. I thought offense and defensive philosophy in this game by K-State was atrocious. And I think that this is a game where either the players were not smart enough to handle the message from the coaching staff or the coaching greatly failed this team tonight. And that's going to happen. You play a long season, you're going to have games where that takes place. Again, just unfortunate that it happens in a situation like this tonight. But we saw defensively, K-State was switching in the most ludicrous of ways. And then offensively, like I said earlier, just there wasn't a lot of good flow early on, and they didn't get a lot of good looks throughout any point in the game. They started to get a little bit more in that middle part of the second half, but it was too late, and they didn't get enough of them. So it was a bad night, and that assist total probably is the biggest indicator of the story of this game. Like K-State had been so good at that during the win streak, at dishing and setting everybody up. They just didn't have it tonight.
Last year, you said that we should get a ball and record ourselves shooting threes after some K-State losses. For this team, I know there's not a lot of time left. Do we get a ball and shoot free throws?
I mean, it may be necessary. I do know that also, if you got any comments or questions, folks, throw them out there because we'll wind this sucker down.
Football, there's footage that has never been seen.
It's true.
But we did do long snaps.
We did. We did do them. We used and was it after the Arizona State game or the Cincinnati game?
I think it was Cincinnati.
Yeah, one of the games. That was towards the end of the year. We did find a ball and we did do our long snapping. I think we both by the second or third snap got it out, got it down. It was beautiful. We might have to do something like that. Where we're gonna do it, I don't know. But we'll have to get that figured out because I just want an excuse to shoot. I was talking to Alec Bussey earlier today, and it was yesterday he sent me like a Snapchat memory from 2 years ago,
Oh yeah,
because
when
we
you guys
were
got to, yeah.
because yeah, we were in Norman on Valentine's Day 2 years ago to watch an ugly K-State road loss. And after the game, we're walking out. It's late. We've been there forever. And OU's practice gym is connected to the long tunnel you have to walk down the Lloyd Noble Center. And so we were just looking for a bathroom to on our way out. Like, oh, let's go pee, get on the road, head back or whatever. And because we were driving back to Wichita that night. And we go into the practice gym and there are bathrooms right there. There are basketballs littered across the floor. And so you're like, man, can we shoot the balls? And you can hear some kind of talking off in the distance. And it was the managers doing the laundry after the game. And so we took turns going to the bathroom, and Alec peeked his head in, and he's just like, hey, then he explained why we were there. And he said, do you care if we get a couple shots up? And obviously they're like, well, we don't care. They probably were not cleared to make that decision, but they made it for us and let us shoot it. That was a great time. But yeah, I mean, I got in trouble today because my daughter's hit a little bit of a growth spurt. So the lowest setting on her plastic basketball goal she can reach it much easier now. So I was like, okay, she's dunking with ease. Like, I'm going to raise this thing, make it a little bit more fun for me to shoot on it, make it a little tougher for her to score. And my wife was like, did you raise that? I said, yeah. And she goes, why would you do that? I was like, well, she can do it. I'm just trying to kind of help her moving along, get this thing figured out. And she's like, no, lower it back. She's not ready for it yet. I was like, damn. So I took that first shot and I like ball sailed over the backboard. So I was a little disappointed with that. Also, KU is going to the free throw line to tie the game with 5.5 minutes left right now. So that's there. Ben's question, have you heard anything about injuries with this team? That's a good question because I saw somebody mention earlier, Max Jones. At one point early in the game, they didn't call a foul on it, and I'm surprised they didn't with the way basketball goes this day and age. I guess I'm not surprised based on how the officiating was, because I thought a BYU guy probably got Max Jones' landing area, and he did step on a foot and kind of roll his ankle a little bit. So I don't know of anything overarching that's significant that's impacting this team right now. I think it's just some general wear and tear. And the nice thing is, if you survive the game on Monday at Utah and can get a win there, then you have a long time to rest up because K-State won't play again until next Sunday after Monday. So I think that Max, based off the way that he plays, is the guy that is the most susceptible to that wear and tear and just kind of long-term kind of breaking down. He's so physical and aggressive. Like he's perfect for what you need, but he does get in the middle of some bang bang things. And then obviously other stuff tonight didn't help the cause. So I think that's something to monitor moving forward.
Yeah, I'd say just general wear and tear. And I mean, I saw somebody saying like Coleman probably needed to sit tonight. This is the problem because you have some general wear and tear stuff, but who are you bringing in off the bench? And like that has been probably the biggest killer of like this entire winning streak is you're only really getting anything from 2 bench players.
And Moby's not even really scoring in that,
Yeah.
like CJ's giving some scoring. Moby's not, like that's not Moby's role. He only scored 2 in the game against Arizona. He was huge in that game, but yeah, I'm with you there.
I see a couple of people shouting out the women's team. Yeah,
Yes.
they number one, UCF is awful, but they made that look easy. And then the bizarro world, I know that it's President's Day, but 1 p.m. game on a Monday.
Yeah, that's a strange one. How many people don't work on President's Day? Because I
My
know
wife
that.
has the day off.
Okay, well, that's great, I guess, because people go to school now on President's Day, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, federal government is about all I know that gets President's Day off now.
Probably banks, banks like to cheat the system with holidays. They make one up every couple of weeks and they're like, we're not open.
post office also closed on President's Day.
Yeah, you can't trust the post office, right? That's not true. You can trust the post office most of the time. I think
So
if you have an issue with the post office, you probably either filled out your mail wrong or somebody sending you something filled out the mail wrong. Just
yeah, but also feels weird. Like you have that game at 1 p.m. on a Monday, but K-State played like late afternoon today, and West Virginia did too. Like,
I guess you're going to be prepared.
it
So
makes no sense. But what do we know?
yeah. All right, let's bring this thing in. We'll get the real basketball talk finished up here right now. Outlook the rest of the way, Drew. You said that you were a little bit more concerned than other people about K-State being able to get this done. A handful of regular season games remaining. Let's do a very raw version of NCAA, NIT, whatever the hell that Vegas tournament is, or nothing.
I'll say whatever the tournament in Vegas is. 5-1 is going to be real tough because
Yeah.
the way that I looked at it, even before the loss tonight, was you probably needed to get tonight because every game from here on out kind of feels like a coin flip. And the odds of getting a coin flip 6 consecutive times or like 5 out of 6 times just does not feel very high to me.
Yeah. And I keep talking about the concern that I have about like the mentality and kind of the psyche of this team is when things get officially dashed, like, are they going to be willing to keep this thing together where they can finish 3-3 or 4-2, in the final 6 games? Or is this going to be, say they lose tomorrow night against Utah or Monday night against Utah, is it then they really hit the skids and this thing finishes in a bad way and they're doing nothing at the end of the year? Because then that would just kind of feel like a lost cause, because the last month and a half of basketball for K-State, it's been fun. It has been fun to watch this team play over the last month. And so I think they deserve another good month of play. They're going to be the ones that have to decide that, though.
As I say, it's going to be up to them now because this is the tough stretch.
I think you win Monday night. You should beat Arizona State at home. They continue to just get more and more broken. They lost at home to TCU today, and Adam Miller got ejected for the second time in like the last 2 weeks. If you guys want some comedy on this, I'll get to it after this. So remind me to remind you guys about what I want to talk about with that. But then you look at K-State. I think you should be able to do that. If you beating Utah is so critical for this, because you get past Utah, survive any way you can. You should beat Arizona State at home. On the road at UCF is a little bit more coin flippy than you would like, but UCF is going to be similar to what you face with Utah. Worse crowd at UCF than what you'll see at Utah. Home against Colorado, you should win that game. They're terrible, despite the fact that they won today. I told you people they were going to win this weekend.
That might be why you beat UCF, because I half jokingly said UCF was going to lose on Wednesday to Oklahoma State. So
Oklahoma State, not a good game today. They got blasted at home by Texas Tech. And then at Cincinnati and home against Iowa State, those are true coin flips right now. And both of those teams are playing better basketball at this current point. So I think you're right. I think you really, to make this thing feel real again, K-State probably needs to win their next 4. And then you want to go into those last 2 games this season saying we just need one to give ourselves a real chance. And if we can win out, then you feel like you've done enough, as long as you don't do something disastrous in Kansas City. But that's kind of the way that I would lay it out right now. And I don't want people to get so discouraged by this game. I think this team has played well enough over the previous 6 games before this to where, yes, it would be easy to slide back into calling them a bunch of names and saying they suck and all this, but they've played too well over the last 6 for me to judge them moving forward based off of this one game. Like, I've started to judge this team for who they were over the last 6 games, not anything that came before that, because I think that's more along the way that this team should have and could have been, and they are playing right now. So I don't think anybody should, jump off the wagon quite yet with this team. Afford them the opportunity to get this thing right again against Utah and then move on with the season like that. So don't let this deter the motivation and excitement that you have here. Now, if things go bad in Salt Lake City on Monday night, then we're probably having a much different show. But I still think that the trajectory of this team is going in a good spot. And I still think that they can get it done. Again, probably unlikely just because of what you said, so many coin flippy games out there, but they're going to still give themselves a real chance. And I still think that they can actually get it done. So we'll just have to wait and see how that goes later on in the week. Also, 60-60 Utah KU, they started the shot clock way late there, and Utah's getting an extra possession out of it. So I'm sure people are thrilled to see KU is getting home cooked on the road right now in Salt Lake. But yeah. Anyways, do you have anything else on the game, the team to finish up before we get into just a bunch of crap to shoot the breeze and have fun here?
No, because I'm sure that we'll talk about this a little bit on Monday before the game. Could be a fascinating game depending on what happens at the end here in Salt Lake City, because I can make an argument both ways that Utah doesn't really show up on Monday. I mean,
yeah.
All right, give us your Arizona State scoop,
All
and
right,
then we can get out of here.
So this is from Chris Cartman. He's the publisher for Sun Devil Source, and Bobby Hurley after the game said some very not very self-aware things about Adam Miller and
Hurley
what
making
happened.
not self-aware comments.
Yeah, tough weekend for the Hurleys. So this is what he said on Adam Miller's second ejection in about 2 weeks. Adam disagreed with the call and he said things he's not allowed to say. I heard him say it, so he's going to have to own that now. I'm very torn because there is not a guy that I would love to coach more than Adam Miller. He gives his heart and soul at both ends of the floor. I'm very reluctant to want to say anything negative about him because I just think he's been a terrific guy to get to coach. But yeah, we've got to find a way to have better judgment and resist the temptation of losing our cool. Bobby Hurley said that we have to find a better way to have better judgment and resist the temptation of losing our cool. Bobby Hurley, the brother of Dan Hurley, 2 guys that are notorious for losing their cool. Now, I will say this. I think Bobby is actually relatively good about losing his cool in a respectful way, where it's more like Bobby is just like his own nut job, whereas like Dan's kind of the nut job that everybody has to deal with. You're like, oh, geez, this guy again. So, but yeah, still funny to see that that comment.
3 ejections in 14 conference games for Arizona State. That's that's a wild percentage.
Yeah, that's you get knocked out of there. I've been looking a lot lately at certain guys, just like their stat profiles on ESPN, and you go down and you can see that the further you go, certain guys have tabs where it shows like their technical fouls and how many games they got disqualified from. And you go through and you're like, oh, most of these guys never got anything like that. Like they're fine. Adam Miller is a guy that he's loading up on him right now, as Bobby Hurley has pointed out. So kind of interesting to see, but that's all I had there.
No, I mean that they are a disaster. Like that could be a really funny game in Bramlage if K-State takes care of business against Utah.
Yeah. Great message from Roy to close up shop. Chin up, fellas. Go kick the crap out of Utah. Drew, real quick, I want you to just talk for like 30 seconds. Buy me some time. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Okay. So I think the other thing that you really take from this game for K-State is I pointed it out. You got to get something from the bench. CJ Jones, I think, has taken a step in these last few games. Can Utah make a free throw or just any kind of basket in this game? But CJ Jones, I don't think has been talked about enough in this little stretch. I was really hard on him in Ames, but
Good ball player.
I think that he's I think he's starting to figure it out a little bit.
All right. I got a little
oh no.
little prop work here. Hang on, let me elevate this. Now, this is no little tykes.
This is what when people say we
loud.
don't really script anything or do anything beforehand. Like, I have legitimately no clue what's about to happen here.
This is obviously a basketball goal. My daughter's got her this for her first birthday before she could actually walk and shoot. Okay, let me go a little higher. All right, so you can see it. How far back do you want me to get in my office down here and shoot this to close things out, Drew?
I say you can go. Like,
hang on, let me. I don't think there's any sensitive information. I'm gonna flip this around to see. This is what we're looking at.
Let's go from the doorway.
Oh, from the doorway. So you want me to like? You want me to corner?
Yeah, little corner pocket.
Corner 3. Okay, hang on. My wife's texting me. I gotta make sure this isn't. Okay, it wasn't about me making noise. See, I was gonna go all the way to the closet. Oh shit! She just sorry, bad language. That she did just text me. Is that you making noise? Let me just text. Okay.
No,
it was me making noise. Well, I had to make sure she knew, that way she didn't think something. I can go from the corner, but that's pretty lame. That's not a very far shot.
Well, you can take whatever shot that you want here.
You saw where I have my light. I'm gonna go behind the light and I will shoot it from there. Well, that'll be like a 3. And just so people are aware, you may have seen that there were like bath mats on the floor down here. That's from a few months ago on an appearance with Bosco's boys. I threw a black ink pen at the closet door for getting a question wrong by like 1 year, and that black pen exploded all up on the ceiling and all over the place, and then got on the floor. And so we just had to. Oh, Jeffrey wants me to dunk it. The NBA dunk contest was tonight, so there you go. Mac McClung, Texas Tech alum, won the dunk contest again, which I've got thoughts on that. Nobody cares. I will go shoot this. You won't be able to see me shoot it, but you'll just know if it went in. So
no,
I hope I don't knock anything off the wall.
I like this, I think, more. We don't get to see where he's shooting it from. He could be shooting it from like right outside the camera, and we would have no idea. I think that went in, but it came so fast. Oh, another miss.
That's bad. 1 of 3. Made the first one, though. No worries.
I mean, he's got to make.
All right. 50% for the night. Call that good, or is there something I need to do to make you happy, Drew?
I mean,
reach your.
If you make your next one, you shot better than K-State did from the free throw line.
Perfect. That's what I'm striving for.
Oh.
All right, that was pressure, and we did it. We've got it completed. I'll probably keep the prop around for future shows because it's fun. Have it right here, like Rex Hudler, just ball in hand while I'm talking to everybody. Any final thoughts before we talk to people again Monday night after K-State goes to Salt Lake City?
Just that this is as close to a must-win as I think that you can have on February What's that going to be? February 17th.
Yeah, you can't lose that game. If you're going to get enough wins to give yourself a chance to make the NCAA tournament, you can't lose to Utah, whether it's in Manhattan, Salt Lake City, or Africa. For Drew Galloway,
Great Michael Beasley reference.
Yeah, there you go. He's been in the news. Probably would like going to Salt Lake City, a little bit higher than Manhattan, Kansas. We'll get out of here. I'm just, I'm not faulting Bees for what happened at the airport. I'm not, it's just a lot to unpack there with that situation that we're not equipped to do right here. I was just making a little joke that I knew would get a giggle out of Drew. We'll get out of here. We'll talk to everybody again Monday night, basically the same time after K-State and Utah do battle from Salt Lake City. Utah, like Drew pointed out, win or lose, it could break them for Monday night. So really both teams, you have no idea what they're about to bring to the table when they get together. We'll get out of here. Thanks for watching and take in all the other content we got. Post-game coverage from the K-State BYU game. Also some football stuff sneaking in there. Go to On3, find KStateOnline.com. Be good to go. We're out of here. Talk to you on Monday. I knew that wasn't going to go in. I knew it wasn't. I had no idea where the basket was behind me. I'm just going to lay it in. Got to end on a make. There you go. We're out of here. See ya. That looked uncoordinated. I'm not that uncoordinated.